Minister for Indigenous Australians, Ken Wyatt, says an Indigenous voice to Parliament won't be part of a question put to the Australian people on constitutional recognition. Matt Cunningham is in Darwin and joins us now. Matt, we know the Prime Minister doesn't support enshrining this voice in the Constitution, so his minister, after, well, some would call it perhaps leaving the door open at his first press club speech. I know there's some debate about that, but he's right on board with this position.
Well, there's no doubt about that from his speech last night at the Vincent Lingiari lecture here at Charles Darwin University, Tom. I think people at the Garma Festival held just over a week ago were also, I think, left with the impression or hopeful that the Minister might try to lead a push to change the Prime Minister's mind when it comes to this issue of enshrining an Indigenous voice to the Parliament in the Constitution. But Ken Wyatt was emphatic at that speech last night that that won't be happening. Take a bit of a listen to what he had to say.
I want to be very clear. The question we put to the Australian people will not result in what some desire, and that is an enshrined voice to the Parliament. On these two matters, whilst related, they needed to be treated separately. This is about recognising Indigenous Australians on our birth certificate.
Now, Ken Wyatt, of course, is not ruling out this idea of a voice to Parliament altogether. He's looking at that through legislation rather than having it enshrined in the Constitution. That probably won't go down too well, though, with many of those architects of the voice to Parliament who are adamant that this voice needs to be enshrined in the Constitution. And the Labor leader, Anthony Albanese, has come out with a tweet today reinforcing that position from the ALP. But it was an interesting speech from Ken Wyatt last night. He had a bit of a crack at people in Canberra and in the media, saying that perhaps their concerns were not the same as those of many Aboriginal people. When he spoke about a voice, he said that it was the voices of Aboriginal people in remote and regional areas that needed to be heard as well. He also spoke, Tom, about this issue of truth-telling. Now, the Uluru Statement from the Heart spoke about the establishment of a Makarrata Commission to look at truth-telling, but Ken Wyatt said that the most effective truth-telling will be that is done around the kitchen table and in the local pub. Here's a bit of him speaking on that issue.
Around kitchen tables, over the barbecue and in the backyard, down at the local football or netball club, and in pubs. This is where permanent change will come from, not from the loud voices in Canberra and the media.
There can be no question really now, Tom, about where Ken Wyatt stands on this issue of an Indigenous voice to Parliament. He's totally ruled out the possibility of that being enshrined in the Constitution. He says that a question that needs to be put to the Australian public on constitutional recognition needs to be one that will get broad support, although it'll be interesting to see now whether there is a fracturing of those people who support constitutional recognition. I'm already told that there are many people who would campaign against constitutional recognition if it didn't include that voice to Parliament.